Ow! Greetings, YouTube. This is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give a review of a recent preview of an animated series that is coming out next month. But Disney has gone on ahead and given a preview episode, a prologue episode this month, and has released it on YouTube. Unfortunately, it's only available for people who live in the US. So people in Canada and in the UK and Australia and whatnot, they're kind of out of luck. So to start this off with, I want to kind of go back, because I have to explain my fandom, because I am a massive fan of this. Tron. Okay. This is the 20th anniversary DVD that I bought back in 2002. So this thing's 10 years old now, but in basically mint condition. Still has everything in it, even all the stuff that it came with, as you can see. Anyway, reason why. How old was I? About 4 or 5 years old when the movie first came out. For those of you who are not familiar with Tron, it was a movie made by Disney back in 1982. The thing that makes Tron so special, it was one of the first movies that used computer graphics in an extensive manner. It was one of the first truly CG movies. Now, if you haven't seen Tron, I highly recommend you watch the original movie. The visual effects now they look downright primitive. You probably get more entertainment looking at your wristwatch than probably maybe you'll get a big kick out of the effects, but of the original movie. However, the fact of the matter that they did this in an era where the most advanced computers were TRS-80s and such, and computer nerds, I may have the type of computers all wrong for the era. I'm not a computer nerd, okay? But what I'm trying to say is that home computers were just coming out being made available at the time. And computers that could do stuff that even our cell phones could do about 500 times more than what those computers could do back then. Basically, without boring you with details, computer technology, especially computer graphics and animation, was in its infancy back then. So this movie was way ahead of its time. And it didn't do very well in the box office. Admittedly, it is a little thin on plot, but visually, if you are looking for something that is that's one for sort of educationally, for people who want to look at history of film and show a movie that was truly ahead of its time, Tron is the way to go. It was highly underappreciated at the time, but over the years, time was kind to this movie, and it grew a cult following, which developed into a fairly good-sized fan base up to today. Now, the first movie was about a programmer named Kevin Flynn who gets zapped into the world that exists inside of our computer by an AI system called the Master Control Program, which was basically trying to take over all things that humans run. And it was taking over the functions of computer programs that it found useful, and these computer programs look like us and actually worship their users, us, as gods. And so Flynn, brought into the computer world as a user, actually had special powers. Really cool little movie, despite its relatively thin plot. It starred Jeff Bridges as Flynn and Bruce Boxleitner as the eponymous character, Tron, who was a security program. Being that he was a security program, he was a bad mother shut your mouth, you know? So, it basically centered around Flynn's Flynn and Tron's fight to get to the Master Control Program and stop him from taking over the world, basically. Simple plot, fairly good movie, highly underappreciated, but as I said, time was kind to it. And of course, Sherman set the Wayback Machine for about 30 years later, excuse me, almost 30 years later, because the movie came out in 2010. And Disney finally goes on ahead and makes a sequel to it, Tron Legacy, which many of you have probably already seen. It was a sequel to that movie, which was a movie I had been waiting to see since I was very young. I remember in middle school and in high school and in college talking to my friends saying, and looking at how computer graphics were advancing after Jurassic Park came out, especially, which was a movie that kind of set the ante for everything. So I said, man, wouldn't it be awesome if they made a sequel to Tron with the computer technology they have now? What would it look like? Lo and behold, now we didn't have to wait. When I learned that they were making a Tron sequel, I was I was on cloud nine. I have to admit, like I said, I am a huge fan of this movie. This movie is like really close to my heart. It's one of the movies that inspired me to be a writer of science fiction and fantasy. It probably instilled sort of a love of cyberpunk, which is, you could kind of sort of describe this cyberpunk. Big mega corporations wanting to rule the world and such, and then going into a computer world. Anyway, so I was, needless to say, overjoyed that they finally made a sequel and showed that and gave that movie the respect that it deserves. And now, not only has Tron Legacy become a fairly successful movie, even though the reviews were kind of all over the place with it. They had people who absolutely loved it. They had people who liked it or kind of liked it. Some were kind of neutral. Others didn't like it. And there are some who hate it. But Disney saw that the movie was successful enough to make an animated series called Tron Uprising. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. I got a chance to finally look at that preview episode, the prologue episode. And I have to say, people, and okay, it is kind of one-sided, I have to admit, because I'm such a huge Tron fan. But I absolutely fell in love. But the thing is that it's not, I'm not, trying to be one-sided about this, because this series looks like it's going to be very good. It's kind of going the Clone Wars way, where it's telling sort of an in-between story. Like, as Clone Wars talks about the time of the Clone Wars, so it's set between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Well, Tron Legacy actually takes place between Tron Uprising, Tron Uprising takes place between Tron and Tron Legacy, telling a story of what's been going on inside the computer world since Flynn got captured. I'm not going to give away a whole bunch of spoilers on Tron Legacy. If you want to see the movie, go see it. And I'm going to try to be as lean on the spoilers for this series as possible. Basically, Tron Legacy, I keep wanting to say Tron Legacy, Tron Uprising tells the story of a program named Beck, who basically takes on the persona of Tron, who, if you've seen Tron Legacy, went missing along with Flynn in the real world, to basically start a revolution against Clue's regime. Clue being a program that Flynn wrote that was a copy of himself, but basically ended up betraying him and taking over the system. So there's a lot of, if you've seen Tron Legacy, you'll understand the premise of everything a lot better. But I think that the way that it starts off explaining everything, you don't have to have seen Tron Legacy, but it helps. I would recommend that you watch Tron at the very least. And so, like I said, Beck ends up taking on the persona of Tron to fight against Clue's evil regime. Basically, the primary antagonist in this series looks to be a high-ranking official of Clue's called General Tesla, who is pretty darn evil. And so it's one man fighting a war against an oppressive regime. The animation is absolutely stunning. I think this is probably one of the best animated series that I've seen when it comes to animation, next to maybe Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I'm talking about the cartoon, not the terrible movie. It's absolutely gorgeous, and although it uses a lot of animation nowadays kind of goes from one end of a spectrum to another. One end of the spectrum, you got these really gangly, almost thin, wiry-looking Peter Chung-esque type characters. And for those of you who don't know what Peter Chung is, look up Aeon Flux, you'll understand. And then on the other end, you have ridiculously cartoony, wiggly, and wiry characters, kind of like Adventure Time, which I do like, but I'm just saying. Tron goes in the Peter Chung-esque category, very much so. The characters look sort of lanky and wiry looking. Not in an unattractive manner, though. It's just one of those things I was just like, wow, why do they always gotta look that way? But animation-wise, it's stunning. They use computer graphics, of course. And there are even nods to stuff from the original Tron. Whereas in Tron Legacy, you had the programs that were the guards and soldiers, had a different look from the original Tron. They actually have programs in this one that look like the soldier programs from the original Tron, which I thought was a really nice nod to the original movie. You still have the disc battles and all the light cycle action that you love from the original, if you've seen the original, and of course in Tron Legacy. And also new types of vehicles in this really nifty little program, this little, I guess, a tool or something like that Beck uses to be able to repair different things in the grid. It sticks onto whatever you're trying to repair, and it like reduces it down to sort of a grid mode, showing all like the internal workings. It's if you're working from maybe like a hologram, showing off like they're working. If you could take a motorcycle on a computer and click on something that would take a part of the motorcycle and show its internal workings, and let's say the motorcycle is broken, it's sort of a simulation that you can get in there and fix what's wrong and then go back to normal motorcycle. That's what this little program does, or this little tool does. It's really awesome. So, and you have a very interesting variety of characters. Thus far, all they've really shown is Beck's friends, Tron, General Tesla, and a little bit of Clue. Interestingly enough, though Bruce Boxleitner is giving the voice for Tron, and I'm not going to spoil what happened to Tron. I know that those of you who've seen Tron Legacy know about Tron, but this is showing something interesting. So you see Tron in this one, let's say that what happened to him in Tron Legacy, I guess, hasn't happened yet. And so it's going to be intriguing to see how that came about. Those of you who've seen Tron Legacy know. Those of you who haven't seen Tron Legacy, go watch the movie. You'll understand a whole lot better. But anyway, as I was saying, characters, aside from they actually gave a lot of strong introductions to Beck and to General Tesla, and also this second in command, and her name escapes me right now. I'm just kind of excited I did this on the fly. She seems to be a very strong character in this one, who is basically sort of a loyal dog for Clue, but I think that the way things are going, you can kind of see that she's going to be sort of a character that kind of changes her loyalties as time goes on. It gave very strong performances for Tron. The only thing I kind of was upset about was Beck's friends, who just seemed to be I want to call it cannon fodder, just the people who kind of like, what do I do, and get themselves kidnapped and everything like that. And it's, I mean, they'll probably develop as the show goes along. I'm definitely counting on that. But other than that, characterization seems to be really good. Elijah Wood gave a great performance for Beck. All the voice actors did a great job. Even the person who they got doing the voice for Clue, let me see, I looked that up on Wikipedia just a second ago. Okay, Fred Tatasciore, I guess that's how you pronounce his name. I was actually surprised. He can do a really good impersonation of Oh my god. Um. Uh, oh my god. The guy who plays the guy who does Flynn's who did Flynn, it just suddenly completely escapes me. Give me, but he does the voice very very well. Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges. I cannot believe that his name just kind of escaped me right at that moment. So anyway, this guy does a very good impression of Jeff Bridges' voice, and I thought it was Jeff Bridges doing the voice for Clue, like he was, of course, in Tron and Tron Legacy. But no, it's another guy doing an impression of his voice, and I thought he did a great job. So anyway, artwork, stellar, best I've ever seen. Characterization thus far very good. Action sequences, though, they have action sequences coming out the behind, and it is incredible. And they have this, like, at the end they have this scene where Beck faces off against General Tesla. I'm not gonna tell you what happens. That's just gonna have your jaw on the floor. So I'm really looking forward to this. Oh, and by the way, they do have, like I said before, they have some nods to the original movie, not just in the design for some of the soldiers, but also this. All I can say is helicopter. Those of you who know the first Tron will understand, and those of you who haven't seen it, you'll get it. It has a lot of nice little nods to the original, and also really good references to the to Tron Legacy, which they're trying to do. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing this. And I think just like I did with Terra Nova, I might be doing my own little series of reviews for each episode as they come out. So look forward to that. I really think that Disney has put up a really good thing for us for us to tide us over till Tron 3. So, which I think that they actually are trying to get the ball rolling on, which I'm so glad. It's a great time to be a Tron fan, and I, for one, cannot wait to see what comes next. If you haven't gotten a chance to see the episode, I'm going to leave a link down there in the doobly-doo. If you're from the UK or outside the US, unfortunately, it's not available. It's not going to be available. I don't know if Disney plans to make it available or not. So I'm very sorry. But for those of you in the US, hope you enjoy it. So, like I said, a great start to what looks like it's going to be an incredible series. And I can't wait to see the rest. And it's starting off early in June. It can't come fast enough for me. Like I said, I'm a huge Tron fan, and I can't wait. So I hope that I've gotten you interested in watching the series. Any questions, comments? Like I said, leave it down there in the comment section. As always, keep it civil. Comment, rate, subscribe. And so until next time, people, DecKrash, better known as Brandon. Stay lucky and stay blessed.